Hello and welcome, Sandman Nation. I hope everyone is having a great week. It is about to get better, though, because it is time to enter Sandman Sports. With me is the dashing and dapper Mr. Pat Klett. Pat is so suave that when he looks in a mirror, the reflection winks back. And of course, we have the legend himself, the Sandman, Mr. Bill Sanders. The Sandman is so awesome that Chuck Norris once was arrested for impersonating him. All right. Well, as we have been doing the last few episodes, before we get into the opening, let's tell our listeners where they can find us. You can find us everywhere, just like Botox on a Kardashian. Check us out on Instagram at Enter Sandman Sports. Check out our website at entersandmansports.com, where we have lots of articles, expert advice, weekly polls, and you can find this podcast there. And you can find the St. Louis Syndicate, their 3 weekly quick hit videos, and our Nailed It information, which we will talk about a lot more later in the episode. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Enter Sandman Sports. Follow us on Facebook at Enter Sandman Sports. All right, boys. Well, as I mentioned in past episodes, my family and I go to one Michigan away game each year, and believe it or not, we plan these a year in advance. Next year is Oklahoma, by the way, so that should be fun. But we chose Indiana, thinking at the time, it might be an easy, boring win, but, it's close to home. It's just a 2.5-hour drive from Cincinnati. We'd never been there. Well, it definitely wasn't boring, and it wasn't a win. But I got to say, it was frickin' a lot of fun to be in Bloomington for this game. First, I just got to ask, have either of you guys ever been there by chance?
No.
Yeah. I mean, I don't blame you. Whoever goes to Bloomington, Indiana just to go. But no, it was awesome. First, I got to give massive kudos to these fans. They're just still so humble, so kind, and they're just soaking it all in. I have to say, I never want Michigan to lose, but if Michigan has to lose, I want them to lose to a team like Indiana, who's just having a crazy good season like this. These fans, they are just loving it. I'm sure they feel like they're in some sort of dream, but they are starting to get some confidence. Not cockiness, just some confidence. You could tell that the majority of the fans just expected and really thought that their team was going to pull out the win when it got close at the end. And that was kind of cool to see. Tailgating was super fun. 2 observations from the tailgating lot. I got to see a lot of middle-aged men wearing Hoosier Daddy t-shirts, along with a lot of candy-striped pants. And let's just say the scenery was much better than I was expecting. My 20-year-old son was definitely impressed with the sorority girls near our tailgate. And Pat, I think there was some fun had at the Saturday night keggers after the game ended. That is for sure. Now, I will say it was obvious that the city of Bloomington and the IU itself is not used to hosting this type of event with this many people. 53,082 fans jammed into Memorial Stadium. Their average attendance last season was 44,000. Traffic was a mess. The bathrooms were incredibly crowded. The infrastructure at the stadium, very dated. But the campus and the city itself was beautiful, very welcoming, and I would love to go back. Just a great experience. But as I was driving to the game, I heard an interesting stat on the radio that I did not know. And that is what's going to drive our opening here. Indiana has the most losses in FBS football history, with 713. So said another way, they're the losingest program in FBS history. So it got me thinking about other programs that have a significant number of losses, and I would love your guys' thoughts on these programs and who might be ready to turn the corner similar to this year's feel-good Indiana story. Now, a couple conditions for this exercise. I am only sharing programs from the FBS Power 4 conferences, and the program must have more losses than wins. Thus, for example, Virginia has 645 losses, but they have 687 wins. So I did not include that program or other ones like that here. I only want to spotlight the worst of the worst through the years. So here are the 10 additional ones that meet the criteria aside from Indiana. So next on the list is Northwestern. They have 706 losses. They're the only other FBS school with more than 700 losses. They are not far behind Indiana. Then we have another Big Ten school, Rutgers, at 698 losses. Wake Forest at 689. Kansas at 684. Iowa State at 678. Kansas State at 671. Vanderbilt at 667. Kentucky at 651. I did include this one, even though they're technically not in a Power 4 right now, but I did include Oregon State. They have 632 losses, and Mississippi State of the powerful SEC has 615 losses. All right, so here are my two questions for you, gentlemen. Of those historically bad programs that I just mentioned, which one would you like to see have an Indiana-type run in the future where they could make the CFP and get their fans all excited? And then two, based on current circumstances such as their coach, recruiting, recent successes, conference affiliation, who do you think actually has the best chance of having a dream season in the near future and could potentially make the CFP first? All right, Pat, lead us off, buddy. What do you think?
I would pick anyone in the Big Ten. I just want to see some parity in the Big Ten. Tired of seeing the same Penn State, Michigan, Ohio State every year at the top. We need to mix it up a little bit. But otherwise, Oregon State, I wouldn't mind seeing. I like is that Corvallis up there. Some of the games in that stadium always look pretty riveting, and the crowd's always into it. Reeser Stadium. I used to eat those burritos too. They were like $1. Really cheap at the gas station. The Reese's burritos. They're not bad. But yeah, I would say those teams.
I was just in Corvallis last year, and they were renovating Reeser Stadium. I don't know if they've completed that. Do you know, Bill, if they have?
Yeah, it's done. Yep.
Okay.
They did a nice job.
Do they sell the burritos at the stadium?
That I don't
know. I don't know. Yeah, that I don't know. It's been Reeser Stadium for a long time, though. So I would guess they've got some sort of Reeser products in the building. But, yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, and
mine's the same as Pat's.
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about this a bunch on the pod up to this point, but I'm rooting for the Pac-2, and I would love to see Oregon State have some success. They were on a nice little run with Jonathan Smith, too, before he went to Michigan State. But who was the guy that ended up going to Nebraska? Riley. I can't think of his first name right now, but
Mike Riley.
Mike Riley, yeah, he got the program kind of turned around, and then actually another one was Dennis Erickson. He was there.
Oh yeah,
as well. So so they've actually had a nice little run, probably in the 90s to 2000s. Been much better. But
didn't they try to bring in?
It's amazing if you think about
it.
Yeah, he was there.
Yeah.
Yep.
For a year.
Yep, he was there. Yeah, and so was the kid that's such a stud for Miami, Damian Martinez, the running back. I think it's Damian. That dude, what a beast, man. That guy is crazy. He was impossible to tackle. But anyway, Pac-2, I'm rooting for those guys. The fans are super nice fans, and I hope that they, find a landing spot, and then they kind of turn stuff around. It'd be awesome to see.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, so I thought about Kansas or Kentucky, but they are bona fide blue bloods in basketball, and their fans have seen a lot of success there. So I didn't choose them, but I would say Wake Forest. I mean, Wake Forest, come on. Other than Tim Duncan, do they have anything that they can claim has ever been good about anything with that school? And of all the Power 4 universities, they're the smallest with an enrollment of less than 9,000 students. And that got me just curious, so I had to compare it. Do you guys know what the largest FBS school is in terms of enrollment and what that enrollment is? I was shocked.
The U of M?
Wow.
Minnesota is pretty big.
No, I mean, they might be up there, but Arizona State.
Arizona State. Okay, yeah.
And what do you think their enrollment is?
5 million.
Yeah. You did not get a nailed it, Pat.
Dang it.
The Bill probably would have gotten a nailed it. 77,888. So
Yeah.
that's crazy. So just Wake being like the smallest school, I think would be kind of cool. What about, who do you guys think like realistically would have the chance to do this next?
I don't know.
I just think what's incredible is when you think about the amount of losses you just read off, Eric. I mean, you're only playing probably 10 to 12 college football games a year for
Yeah.
all, the last 50, 60, 70 years. That is insane when you think
Yeah.
about how many losses those programs have. I mean, that's a lot of losing. For me, though, you
Yeah.
mentioned them in your first one. Kansas would be my closest to school. I mean, I looked it up actually. They rank in the top 20 in donor funds. I know that they're doing a massive renovation on the stadium. Lance Leopold is their coach and was in the conversation to come to Washington. Turned the Huskies down to stay at Kansas. And I know they've had a down year, but it seems like in the Big 12 they've got a chance to bounce back quick. And if they get a bunch of money pumped into the program, great coach, it seems like they are not too far off from being in the mix.
Yeah, Bill, I totally agree. I think it's between 1 and 2, and they're both in the same state. I was shocked that Kansas State was even on that list. I don't know if you guys were or not, but I had to kind of do a double take with that. Because they've been so good the past few decades
Yeah,
under Bill
Bill
Snyder and
Snyder.
now Chris Kleeman even. But I think that just goes to show how bad they were for so many decades prior. But I do think K-State is right there on the cusp. They play in arguably, and this is true for Kansas, they play in arguably the weakest of the 4 power conferences. So their path to winning a lot of games, winning the conference, and making the CFP is a lot easier. And as you said with Kansas, Leopold done an amazing job in Lawrence, proved their recruiting, their discipline, just the entire mindset of the program. Despite kind of a weird season and setback this year, they still a lot of talent, I think, are headed in the right direction. We're just building a great program. To me, the only concern there is if an opportunity comes up in the Big Ten or SEC, he could potentially bolt, and that could change some things. But I think I got to go with Kansas having the next chance to be a Cinderella.
Yeah, me too. Bierman, can I throw one extra thing in here? Because
Please,
mentioning Indiana. Do you think that Cignetti will be there very long, and is Michigan potentially a target for him to land?
So somebody else just asked me this recently. I think if I'm an Indiana fan, what I'm happy about or what I think is in my favor is he's not leaving for any program other than another Big Ten program or an SEC program. So that he's not going to anywhere in the Big 12 or anywhere in the ACC. I don't even think he'd go to a Clemson, to be honest with you. Like a big name school, Florida State could be looking for a new coach. I don't think he'd go there. Yeah, Florida might because SEC. I could see him maybe going to an SEC school, but but Michigan I hadn't really thought of. Michigan's going to give Sharon at least 2 more years. As whether I like that or not, he's in it for a couple more years, which I think's fair. I think the jury's still out on whether or not he's a good coach, but this has just been a tough year for them. But I think more so than in years past, Indiana actually does have a good chance of keeping Cignetti because of the fact that these two conferences, the SEC and Big Ten, have kind of separated themselves from everyone else. There's just not a lot of schools for him to go to now, so to better himself.
Yeah.
So,
agree.
Question for me, Eric, and this is a little bit out of the thinking outside the box, off topic. But you mentioned the talent at Indiana that your son was so impressed with. Would it make sense for the Sandman Nation to send me on a research project where I go around to all the campuses and rank them? I mean, I think, do we have the funds available?
Man of the people.
I mean, Pat, a couple episodes ago when we were, a couple episodes ago we were, I brought up wanting to live stream a podcast from Vegas and March Madness, which I'd still like to do, but it sounded like you had to get permission from your wife. So is she going to be okay with us sending you to Bloomington for this type of reconnaissance?
Well, it's for work and it's research and it's really for the people. It's for everyone.
All right. Well,
Man of the people.
Yeah. So,
Well, since I am only a couple hours away, maybe I meet you down there for lunch.
and my favorite quote ever from my friend's dad growing up was, "Hey boys, just because you're on a diet doesn't mean you can't look at the menu." So I was like, all right, sounds good to me.
Words to live by.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's get into the show because, as like always, we have a very busy and awesome episode. Last week, we shared exciting news about our Nailed It segment, and we'll share our first weekly winner when we get there toward the end of the show. So keep listening. And if you haven't joined the contest yet, do it this week. We'll explain how you can. All right. Let's dive into the major headlines from the past weekend. The NBA season is in full swing now, and the Cleveland Cavaliers are crushing it with a 12-0 record and leading the Eastern Conference. They are only one of 8 teams to ever start a season in the NBA with a 12-0 record. A few surprises on the disappointment spectrum include the Milwaukee Bucks at 2-8. Could Doc Rivers be in trouble? And the Philadelphia 76ers at 2-7. But we have more than 85% of the season, I think, to go, so lots will still change, but been an interesting start for sure. The college basketball season kicked off last week, and in a fun early season top 10 contest, the Kansas Jayhawks beat the North Carolina Tar Heels 92-89 in a pretty cool matchup. I think both teams are going to be good this season. We don't talk NHL much, but I got to shout out to the Winnipeg Jets, who have made hockey history by being the first NHL team ever to win 14 of their first 15 games. Well done, Winnipeg. Keep it going. And they got me a nailed it bullseye with their 4 goals against Dallas last week, so nice job there too. In college football, we are recording this before this week's CFP standings come out, but in the AP top 5, it looks impressive for the Big Ten as 4 of the top 5 are Oregon and Ohio State at 1 and 2, Penn State and Indiana at 4 and 5, and Texas is sandwiched in there at number 3. And one more tidbit about Indiana. They're ranked in the AP top 5 for the first time since 1967. So awesome to see for the Fighting Sigs. Yeah, it was. Was that the summer of free love?
That was a good team.
I think
that was a good team.
I think you would have loved being around in 1967, Pat.
Yeah, man.
Made for the
Oh yeah, totally. Texas, I mentioned, is number 3 after absolutely crushing the Florida Gators 49-17 in Austin behind Quinn Ewers, 333 yards and 5 touchdowns. And despite their loss to Georgia a few weeks ago, this team looks scary and could be there standing at the end when it's all said and done. The Miami Hurricanes finally played with fire one too many times and couldn't complete their patented fourth quarter comeback this time, falling to Georgia Tech 28-23 in Atlanta. It wasn't a good day for mascots based on storms, as the Iowa State Cyclones are also upset as they go into Lawrence, Kansas. And the 2-6 Jayhawks give them a pretty good whooping in a game that really wasn't anywhere near as close as the final score of 45-36. In the game of the week, the Ole Miss Rebels take care of business at home in convincing fashion over the Georgia Bulldogs. Quarterback Jackson Dart doesn't have his most impressive stat day, but this team looked very balanced. They flustered Carson Beck in the Bulldog offense, and with only games remaining against Florida and Mississippi State after their bye week, this team should be 10-2 and sitting well positioned for a CFP berth. In the other big game, the Crimson Tide continue to make their fans scratch their heads as this weekend they waltz into Death Valley and absolutely put a hurting on the Bayou Bengals, winning 42-13. Quarterback Jalen Milroe's passing stats were not very impressive as he mustered only 109 yards through the air. However, he had an electric game with his feet as he rushed for 185 yards and 4 touchdowns. Deion Sanders and his Colorado Buffaloes continue with an impressive season as they go into Lubbock and thrash Texas Tech by 2 touchdowns. This team now sits at 7-2, 5-1, and second place in the Big 12. And if they keep taking care of business and BYU stumbles, the Buffs could be in the CFP. I am not a huge Deion fan and actually thought they would struggle this year, but this team is solid and fun to watch. Kudos to the crew in Boulder. And speaking of BYU, they survived the Holy War in an absolute thriller scoring the only points in the second half and winning on a 44-yard field goal in the waning seconds. I'm still not sold on this team being CFP worthy, but they keep winning and proving me wrong. Moving to the NFL, my Bengals continue to find new ways to crush the hopes of their fans as they play another nail-biter against AFC North rival Baltimore, and they looked every bit as good as the Ravens for the second game this season. But for the second game this season, they lose in the final seconds. This time they score a touchdown with 42 seconds left, go for two, and don't get it, losing 35-34. The Chiefs continue their unbeaten season in miraculous fashion by blocking the winning field goal as time expired against a very feisty Broncos team. I keep doubting the Chiefs. They keep winning, and it makes me hate them even more. Here's hoping the Bills will win this week in what could be an AFC Championship preview when Buffalo hosts Kansas City on Sunday at 4:30. That should be a super fun game to watch. The Steelers also continue to have a great season as they steal one in D.C. against the Commanders, winning 28-27 behind another solid performance from Russell Wilson. The Patriots beat the Bears 19-3 in the Snooze Fest Candidate of the Year, and the only reason I'm stating this is so that I can share that the Bears have now gone 2 straight games without scoring a touchdown. Have the Bears ruined another can't-miss quarterback prospect, this time with Caleb Williams? I don't know. Time will tell, but man, this team does not look good right now. And Super Bowl favorite, the Detroit Lions, prove why they are favorites as they come back against the Texans, scoring the only points in the fourth quarter and capping their comeback with a 52-yard field goal from kicker Jake Bates, who also kicked a 58-yard field goal 5 minutes earlier. Well done, young man. All right, fellas, once again, a lot happened this past weekend. Can't wait to hear your thoughts, reflections, and hot takes. Mr. Platt, kick us off, sir.
Yeah, Thursday was great watching that game. Sorry about your Bungles team, Eric. That was a great game to watch. Lamar Jackson continues to have at least 2 plays per game where you're just like, wow, that guy's unbelievable. They can maybe, they should have got someone at the trade deadline for their defense, really all in on someone like Max Crosby or anyone, because when it gets to the cold playoff games and they'll probably have to go to Kansas City again, they're going to need some defense. But yeah, that was a fun game Thursday. Saturday, I worked both my jobs and then came home and watched a movie with my wife. So I didn't see a ton of the college football, unfortunately. But yeah, once the movie was over, though, she gave me the green light to watch football while she falls asleep and snores. So yeah, that was nice. So I did get a little bit of the late games on Saturday. Let's see what else. All my Odyssey teams lost in just soul-crushing fashion. Denver, Washington, Tampa Bay. Those 3 games were.
So does that take you out, or do you still?
You still got a chance. All right. It's I'm not moving up the board anymore. I'm moving down, so that's not good.
Gotcha.
But yeah, other than that, Jalen Milroe was awesome. I think the Seahawks should draft him. Bill, I think you guys should get Milroe. Tank the rest of your season. He'd be a good fit up there. I have two things that kind of bugged me, though. Was one, the lineman downfield penalty. A bunch of that this weekend. And I don't really get that penalty where the lineman's like on a screen, the lineman's 2 yards upfield instead of 1. And what's his fat ass going to do out there if he's 2 yards or 1 yards? Why are we calling that penalty? I don't really understand that one since I never really played football with pads on. So maybe someone could explain that one to me. But and the other one is the 30-second timeout. Why are we doing 30-second or 1 minute? I don't get the 30-second.
Feels random.
Yeah, it's so random. But that was my weekend.
Yeah, what a weird weekend, I thought. And maybe it was because the Seahawks were on bye. It's always kind of, I don't know if you guys feel this, but it's always kind of nice when your team's on bye, because you feel like, I'm just going to watch games and there'll be no stress and all that. And then my beloved Huskies were also on bye. Or wait, did they play in Happy Valley in a whiteout game? I don't really remember. But I think they were on
bye after about 5 minutes.
Yeah, they were bye. And actually, it turned out it was one of those great things where we had a district playoff game scheduled for my Mount Side girls soccer, and I didn't watch a second of the Husky game because of it. And I checked at one point; it was 28-0. They were behind at halftime. It's like, oh, this is a good one to miss. So, anyway, that's a couple other things, just notes. These are probably neither here nor there in terms of big sports, but the Huskies soccer, you guys know I'm a huge Husky guy, outside of even football and basketball and the big sports, but both soccer teams,
fat.
women and men. Yeah. No,
oh, Husky. Oh, I'm
know.
sorry. Husky back then. Washington. Gotcha.
Slimming
My
up
bad.
here. Slimming up here, yeah. Yeah, both the Huskies men and women soccer teams made the College Cup, which is pretty cool. And they were battling in the Big Ten playoffs, and that was fun to watch. And then a good family friend out here, Zach Ramsey, is on the Huskies. He made the all-freshman team for the Big Ten, which was really cool. So shout out to the Ramseys. I know they've been listening a little bit to the pod, so really cool to see that. And my girls' team is in the state playoffs that start tomorrow night on Wednesday. So,
oh, nice!
Congratulations!
Yeah, so really looking forward. Yeah, thanks. And then the last soccer bit, because I know everybody loves soccer. My son Will has been battling a broken thumb, out for 5 weeks. He had his first game back on Sunday, and he played his old club. They won 4-1. It was a really fun game, and it was awesome to see him back out there doing what he loves. So
nice.
That was my weekend.
Congrats, Will. That's awesome,
Thanks.
man.
Yeah. How about you, Bierman?
Well, I'm going to start with some love to several front runners for the Heisman Trophy. We haven't talked a ton about the Heisman this season so far. Right now, the favorite is actually Colorado dual threat cornerback and wide receiver Travis Hunter at plus 130. Second place is running back Ashton Giante of Boise State at plus 300. And third place is Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel at plus 330. We have talked a lot about Giante on the show, so I will skip him for now, but I do want to share a little bit of love for the other two. As much as I've rooted against Deion in Colorado, I have to give props to Travis Hunter. It's cool to see a legit two-way player be the front runner so late into the season. Charles Woodson was the last defensive two-way player to win the award back in 1997, and he did not play on offense nearly as much as Hunter does.
Special teams.
Hunter,
yeah. Woodson was more
I mean,
special
Hunter plays.
teams
Yeah,
guy.
he plays offense. He did special. I mean, he did some offense. He definitely got in there and caught some plays. But yeah, he was more special teams and certainly defense. But I mean, he did it all too. But Hunter has 69 receptions for 856 yards and 9 touchdowns, 2 interceptions as well. He's averaging 122 plays per game. Plays offense, defense, and special teams. His team is 7-2, as I mentioned earlier. They're sitting pretty for a potential Big 12 championship and CFP berth. I'm actually rooting for this kid and for Giante. I hope one of the non-quarterbacks win it this year. But that is not to throw shade at Oregon quarterback Dylan Gabriel, who is having a great year too. And if Hunter or Giante stumble, he's going to easily win the award, in my opinion. I do want to give Gabriel a huge shout out as he made college football history this past weekend. He surpassed Case Keenum and is now the FBS all-time total touchdown record holder with 179, both passing and rushing. Keenum, who played at Houston from 2007 to 2011, was the previous record holder with 178. So nice job, Mr. Gabriel, and congratulations. And then my last one, I just want to send a rest in peace to Hall of Fame coaching legend John Robinson. Don't know if you guys saw, but he passed away yesterday at the age of 89. Bill, I'm sure being on the West Coast, you know all about Coach Robinson. Robinson gained most of his fame as head coach of the USC Trojans from 1976 to 82, and then with the LA Rams from 83 to 91. He actually started coaching in Oregon as an assistant way back in 1960, and he was also head coach of the UNLV Running Rebs in the late 90s and into the early 2000s. He led the Trojans to the national championship in 1978. He won the Pac-10 5 times and won 4 Rose Bowls, which is pretty impressive. He was elected to the College Football Hall of Fame in 2009. In the NFL, he led the Rams to the playoffs in 6 of his first 7 seasons and reached the NFC Championship game twice. He did lose both times, once to the famous 85 Bears team and to the 89 49ers. He was one of those successful, famous coaches when I was young. When I was just starting to get into football, I just remember seeing him being a really good coach. So I will always remember Coach Robinson very fondly. You had a great career, sir. You influenced many young men in positive ways. Rest in peace. All right. Well, I think we are ready to make our listeners some more money and get into Stone Cold Locks. It was a good week for me. A few struggles for you too. I went 3-0. Bill and Pat each went 1-2, but still very impressive
You already
records
mentioned
overall.
that.
Pat, you were at.
You don't have to mention that again. You already mentioned that once.
I may mention it another
once
time.
Is fine.
Pat, you are at.
Wait till nailed it. Wait till nailed it.
I cannot wait until nailed it. Pat, you are at 21, 11, and 1. I am now in second place at 19, 13, and 1. And Bill, you're at 18, 14, and 1. All right, Pat the Greek Klet, lead us off this week, buddy. What is your first Stone Cold Lock?
No college picks this week. So we're going with the Brown Saints over 44.5. I feel like they're two mid teams that will have no problem putting up some points. You got Jameis Winston and Derek Carr, now healthy Derek Carr. I just feel like this is a game that's gonna have a lot of points and a lot of scoring, not a lot of defense. So give me the over 44.5 Brown Saints game. For one, lock it in.
All right, got you down for it.
Nice. If you have all NFL, Pat, there'll be no two Pats this week, so because I have all college. So my first one, shout out to our buddy Ryan Harrington. He'll be at this game, I believe, at Arkansas. I'm taking Texas Longhorns minus 13.5. And again, I've been at my best this season when I don't overcomplicate things. And Texas is really good. Arkansas has not played well at home this year, and anytime they've played anybody that's any good, they've been blown out. So I'm looking for Texas in a rout. That's my first one.
Yeah, I like that. I actually consider that one, Bill. All right. So last week it wasn't one of my Stone Cold Locks. It was best bet. We talked a little bit about BYU, Utah, and I said I like Utah, but I didn't really have a lot of research to back it up. It was more of a gut. Well, I'm doing the same this week. This game is just a dreadful game, honestly, but I'm sorry that anybody actually has to watch this. But the Houston Cougars travel to the desert to take on the Arizona Wildcats, and this is definitely a questionable pick. Arizona is giving 1.5 points, but I just cannot get past my distaste for Houston. They have won 3 of their last 4 games, including last week's win over a ranked Kansas State team. Meanwhile, Arizona's on a 5-game losing streak, and they are 1-8 against the spread this season. Despite all this, I have zero confidence in Houston's offense, which ranks among the worst in the country. Their defense is okay, but Arizona's quarterback, Noah Fafita, he's capable. He's actually really good if he just get even some minimal help from some of his weapons around him. They should be able to score some points. I got to tell you, this is a week where I am not sold on many games at all, but I am going to back the Wildcats to grab a much-needed win and cover the small spread. Arizona minus 1.5. All right, Pat, what do you got for number 2?
Well, I'm a homer. Vikings giving 6 points versus Tennessee. I believe in this team. The defense barely played last week against the Jags. They were barely on the field. The offense had possession of the ball most of the game. So it was almost like a bye week for our D. They were interviewing Harrison Smith, our safety, about the game, and he's like, I really didn't have to do much. Everything was handled up front. I basically was in on maybe 2 tackles, and that's it. So you got fresh legs on the defense, and the defense is looking really good. And the offense is ready to go off. They just need to not turn the ball over in the red zone. I feel like they're going to get that right. So this one, they've been hanging around with, they obviously lost to the Rams, and they let Indy hang around, and they let Jacksonville hang around. But this one I feel like is a get right game, get back on track, and give me the Vikes minus 6.
Yeah, I had that one in my honorables this week. Bierman. I don't know if you were looking at that one at all, but my second one, Bierman, is I don't want to say that this is my stone cold lock of the year, but I cannot believe this line. And it is Oregon minus 14.5 at Wisconsin. This game, if it was minus 29.5, I would be on Oregon. So I just don't get this. I mean, Camp Randall, I get it. They're on the road. Oregon has been beating every team they play by 30 plus points. Why is Wisconsin going to be any different? I must be missing something. Somebody knows something in the land of cheese.
Yeah, Alabama went in there. Alabama went in there and rolled. I mean, yeah, it shouldn't be much of a fight.
Yeah, Penn State. Penn State just went in and said, it's a great point. I don't know. It goes to that. It just scares me when it looks that good. It scares me, man.
I know. That's why I'm not making any sort of lock of the year picks here. But the other thing I was just going to add in, I don't know if you guys saw the news on Jack Del Rio. But he got arrested for, I believe it's called operating while under intoxicated. Maybe it's an OWI. It seems like they keep coming up with new acronyms for the same type of thing. But here's my plea to anyone that's listening, especially if you're somewhat famous and rich. Get an Uber. What are we doing? Why are we driving when you're Jack Del Rio? Just get an Uber.
Was it in Wisconsin?
It makes no sense, you guys.
Did it happen in Wisconsin?
Yes.
I thought drinking and driving was legal.
Yeah, it happened in Wisconsin.
It's illegal in Wisconsin?
Yeah, you know a lot better than me, being close. But anyway, look, I know I don't need to preach on this bit, but it just blows me away when you are rich, famous, privileged, whatever, that you just don't get an Uber in today's day and age. Anyway, glad no one was hurt, but he was disoriented and walking around, and witnesses had to point the cops to him because he left the scene. Just not a good look, and he, I think, resigned this week as like a special assistant to Luke Fickell, I think. So, unfortunate. Hopefully Jack Del Rio can get his stuff straightened out. But give me the Ducks minus 14.5. I love that one, Bierman.
I like it. All right. For my second one, we are headed down to the swamp. Even after the Tigers got crushed by Alabama on Saturday, I am on them, giving the 4.5 points against the Gators down in Gainesville. With quarterback Garrett Nussmeier, LSU's offense, it's still dangerous. They are averaging over 440 yards per game. Their defense is solid enough. They now face Billy Napier's team that just got steamrolled by Texas. Despite their 4-5 record, all of the Gator wins this season have come against teams with losing records. This line feels small to me, even in a tough environment. I expect the Tigers to bounce back and take out some frustration on the Gators in a strong showing. LSU minus 4.5.
I liked that pick, Eric. I was going to pick that, but I vowed never to do college picks again. So that one was on my radar for sure. Too, my last one you're really going to like, Eric. It's the Bills, 2.5, minus 2.5 against the Chiefs. They can't go 17.
It's one of my it's one of my best bets for the NFL. Dude, I love the Bills. I honestly do love that pick, and I really want the Chiefs to lose.
Yeah. And the Bills seem to always get to 30 points, and I don't feel like the Chiefs can get up to more than 25 points this year. I mean, they're low scoring Chiefs team this year. So, and I feel like this is a game where Mahomes might be wheeled out in a wheelchair, and potentially Taylor Swift break up with Kelsey because she only dates winners. I think that's what's going to happen. I think that's what she's going to say in her interview.
Is Dalton Kincaid going to get a call after the game?
Someone will, but this is where it ends. This is where everything ends this week.
All right.
Mark my words.
Wow.
I'm with you guys. With you guys. That line felt too short to me.
Yeah.
I like that pick. I'm struggling with this one. I got to be honest with you guys. I'm always honest, but I have 3 and 4 pick here, and I'm not sure which one that I'm going to say on the pod. I've been choosing poorly when I do this every week. I've been picking the wrong one.
Bill, before you, This has never happened to me. I have 2 extra ones right now. I am going to ask you two to tell me which one you want me to say. So
I
just
was
so
just
you
going
know.
to say the same
So,
thing. Oh, that's
well,
great.
you want to
Okay,
do it? You want to do an A or B?
No.
You want to do an A or B?
No. You do that. You do that when it comes to your
Okay.
last one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, that's fine. I'm going to go with my gut and just go with the one that I think is the best. But boy, I've been doing terribly at this every week. Every week I've been choosing wrong between my third and my fourth.
You're
pick.
not
Anyway,
giving our listener a lot of confidence, Bill.
well, my record
I love
should
that he
speak
just
for
said
that.
our listener.
Yeah,
Our listener.
don't do plural.
Singular.
It's just it's Eric's daughter.
I love it. Mackenzie, let me just tell you, this is the one that you want to bet this weekend. All right, so my third one, I'm gonna stick with my original gut here. That's the smart way to look at this, and I'm gonna go with the Sun Devils. Speaking of high attendance for their school, Arizona State may have 80,000 students, and let's hope that they've got 100 good football players on Saturday night because they're +9, and they're going to Kansas State. So here's the thing that people have listened long enough to know that I rarely ever do, but I'm going to give Kenny Dillingham some props. The guy comes out of the Chip Kelly coaching tree, an Oregon guy. He's really got Arizona State flying right now. They're putting up a lot of points, and this is where I just think this +9 number just feels big to me. I don't necessarily think they're going to go into Kansas State and win this game, but I do think that they're going to keep it within a touchdown. So the other point that I was going to make is that Cam Scatabo, their beast of a running back. I don't know if you guys have seen this kid for the Sun Devils. Yep. He looks like Mike Allstott. And so he's back this week, and I think that's going to help as well, their offense. And so give me the Sun Devils +9.
I like the Scatabo kid.
I like that one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yep. He's a beast.
All right, Pat, you're picking the third Stone Cold Lock for me. A or B?
A.
All right. If you had said B, we were going to go NFL, but we'll stick college. Here we go. All right. I am taking an underdog as well on the road, Bill. I am taking the Syracuse Orange +8 as they travel out to California to take on the Bears. Much like my analysis on Florida, California's record has been padded by wins against teams with losing records, although one of their victories was over a strong 9-1 FCS team in UC Davis back in week 1. But the majority of their wins have come against very bad teams. These teams are fairly evenly matched across the board, so getting a full touchdown just feels very generous for the Orange. Syracuse quarterback Kyle McCord struggled a few weeks back in their blowout loss to Pittsburgh, but he has since bounced back, racking up nearly 700 yards combined in games against Virginia Tech and Boston College. I like the Orange to keep this one tight with a chance even at a road win, so I will gladly take the 8 points here. Syracuse +8.
Curious what your other one, what was B?
It would have been the Saints -1.5 over the awful Browns.
I like that one too.
All right. Well, we are going to move into our top 5. This one is another Pat special and should be a fun one. And it was impossible. And we will probably get a lot of listener comments on this one, just like we did with our candy and cereal and some other awesome ones that we've done in the past few months. This one's a simple one. Top 5 favorite TV shows of all time. Not necessarily the ones we think are the best, just our favorites. It can be from any decade, any genre. Man, it was so much fun doing this, but I gotta tell you guys, I had a hard time dwindling this list down. So let's get into it. I can't wait to hear yours, Pat. What do you got for 5 and 4?
Well, as I told you guys, my wife and I were trying to watch a movie Saturday night, and there's no good movies, no good TV shows right now. We spend more time pulling up Netflix or pulling up Prime and scrolling through and like looking at trailers, and it's really hard to find a good show. So I mainly did this just to hear what shows you guys have so that we could get into a new show. I know with this list, we all had a ton of honorable mentions. So maybe we just kind of throw our honorable mentions in as we're going. but I thought
Yeah.
I thought it was tough, and I know I'm going to think of some after we're done, but as always. But my number 5 was The Office, the American version. Before kids, my wife and I bought the DVDs of season 1 and 2 from Blockbuster, I think, and got home, and we spent a weekend being like, all right, one more, and then next thing you know, it's like 3 a.m. But we watched the first 2 seasons like that, and then we caught up to, having to wait every Thursday to watch the episodes. But then when our kids are older, they watched it and they like it. They thought it was hilarious. I mean, there's so many great episodes, so many great lines in that show. And if I'm ever having a bad day, I just think about Kevin carrying the big thing of chili across the office and then spilling it on the floor. And then it's just, I feel better. So good show. The Office, number 5. 4 was Mad Men. The show Mad Men. I always wanted to be in advertising, writing copy for Super Bowl commercials, and give me 30 seconds, I'll sell you guys anything. But and I love writing taglines. When I actually tried to apply at a few ad agencies, and I had a whole portfolio full of taglines and stuff like that, and I just love doing it. But time period is one of my favorites in film. I love that time period,
Yeah.
50s, 60s, when guys wore suits and women wore dresses everywhere. Don Draper is just, a troubled soul, but he was kind of cool. And then January Jones is not ugly, so that helped.
Not ugly.
She's not ugly. So that's 5 and 4 for me.
Great show. I love that one, Pat. What I will think, this is going to stun me if we don't have any crossover.
Yes. Yeah.
In our shows.
Yeah.
It is going to stun me if we don't. But so far, I don't have either one of those on my list. My number 5, and I think this one's safe, from Bierman as well, is Band of Brothers. And you guys know I have an affinity for war movies and war shows. And this is the only one that I did that was one season. And just a phenomenal depiction of World War II, the 82nd Airborne dropping in, and behind enemy lines for D-Day, and then the march towards Berlin. And just an unbelievable show. Great characters. They did a great job of making it realistic. And so Band of Brothers is my number 5. My number 4, and easily could have been number 1, that's how good all of these shows are, in my opinion, is The Sopranos. And I have The Sopranos as my number 4. It's kind of a cool life thing, too, because Marcy was pregnant with our daughter, Sydney, and then we had Sid, and Marcy would stay up late breastfeeding and late at night, and we had the old Blockbuster or Netflix DVDs that they would mail to us. And so, like Pat was saying with The Office, with his wife, we would pop those in, and it would come to the end of the episode, and Marcy's like, just one more, and I'm like, it's 2 a.m. I have to work tomorrow. And and it was just such a good show. We just pounded through that thing as fast as we could get the DVDs sent to us in the mail, because we just binged it all from start to finish. So amazing television. Rest in peace, James Gandolfini as Tony Soprano. Just phenomenal. So many good side characters in that. Great writing. Phenomenal TV show. Mm-hmm. Bierman, how about you?
All right. Well, before I get into my list, I just want to say that one of my criteria was to think of shows that I just love to rewatch over and over again. And when I do, I can easily binge them. So a lot of my shows fall in that category. We do know that Pat hates it when I combine some of my selections, but to allude to one of my upcoming picks, Suck It, Trebek, or Suck It, Clat, because I'm combining my first few, and you're just going to have to frickin' deal with it. So I'm going to admit it. I am a game show nerd, guys. I love game shows, and many more than just the ones I'm about to list here. But for my number 5, favorite TV shows, any genre, I'm going with The Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy together. All-time classics. I watch them pretty much every night, and it is one of my dreams to appear on Wheel of Fortune. And believe it or not, I actually just recorded and submitted my audition tape.
Nice.
So wish me luck, and buy a vowel, Pat. Buy a vowel.
I will.
And I do just have to say, I liked Pat Sajak, but Ryan Seacrest is crushing it as host, and Frank, I actually think I like it better with him on it. So doing well, Mr. Seacrest. All right, for number 4, I am going with another combo. I do promise this is my last combo, but I had to combine these because to me they just kind of are. They happened at the same time. They aren't necessarily similar shows, but I'm going with 2 Thursday night NBC staples from the 1990s, 2 iconic yet very different sitcoms. I'm going with Friends and Seinfeld. I watch reruns on both constantly. I actually credit Friends with me landing my wife. I quoted Friends kind of as a pickup line with her, and she was so impressed that I shared her love for that show by quoting it that I knew such obscure lines. She couldn't help herself but just go ahead and fall in love with me. So you know how it is, Pat. But
Yes.
that was many years ago, and the rest is history. And for Seinfeld, some seasons are much better than others. I hated the ending of it, but there are just some all-time great episodes, characters, and lines from that show, and it just makes me laugh every single time I watch it. So, all right, I promise no more
Nice.
combos, but I had to do those 2. All right, Pat, what do you got for 3
I
and
did
2?
have Wheel of Fortune on my list, and then it just got phased out. But I used to watch that with my brother.
I got it. Yeah,
And we do $1
I
a
love
puzzle.
it.
We do $1 per puzzle, and I love Wheel of Fortune. Yeah, my number 3, number 3, I'm going with Dexter. Dexter is the one about the serial killer.
Never seen that, but I've heard good things about it.
It's fun. It's a fun one. He's a serial killer, and he kills people that deserve it. So you're kind of rooting for him. It's fun to root for him.
I literally just
It's a good show.
heard these 5 words together. It's fun. He's a serial killer.
it's and it's you know how difficult it is finding shows that you can agree on with your significant other. And my wife tends to like these creepy serial killers type shows. And so, yeah, but this one was actually a really good one. So Dexter.
What's your
I
second
have a second
Pat?
one too. Sorry. Forget that we do 2. Number 2 is No Reservation by Anthony Bourdain. And he's one of my all-time favorites. Unfortunately, he committed suicide, but he was, he combines love of travel and food, 2 of the greatest things. He'll take you to, take you away to a different country and show you what the people are like and give you an honest take on life there and culture and how it compares to the States and what he finds beautiful about the people and the food in each country. And he was witty and just super bright guy, and you could almost taste the food the way he described it and talked about it. So that was a show that I definitely miss for sure. Number 2.
Yeah.
What a talent. Yeah, I remember, Pat, what was the episode that we did before where you mentioned him? Did we do like a top 5 people
It was
we'd
the celebrities that I think it was celebrities that passed away. It was when we were talking about Pete Rose.
Deaths. Yeah.
Celebrity deaths. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Gut Punch celebrity deaths. Yeah, good call, Bierman. Yeah. Anyway, I remember your love for him and shining through as you were talking about him. So yeah, what a great show. Yeah, for me, my number 3 is Peaky Blinders. And Eric, I think you talked about your parameters for your shows, and I realized for me that I had a lot of different shows like Seinfeld, Curb Your Enthusiasm, another one for honorables. But I really lean towards not comedies, I guess, which is somewhat surprising. But I really love this type of period drama, violent, gangster. I just really enjoy those types of series, I guess. And, whether you're setting it like a Deadwood, which is a Western version, or Peaky Blinders, which is in London, gangs, they had little razors in their caps, and that was a whole thing, true to life, that they brought into the show. And so Marcy and I both like this one a bunch. She loves the lead actor, Cillian Murphy. One of my favorite characters in any show ever was Aunt Polly from this show. And unfortunately, and I cannot think of her name, the actress, off the top of my head right now, but she passed away from a fight with cancer, I think a couple years ago. And it just was such a sad she was so incredible in this show. If you guys haven't watched it, I highly recommend. Just a great one. My number
Yeah,
two,
we thought
I
about
have a
that
feeling
one.
you guys.
Bill, we thought about that one, but my
Yeah.
wife doesn't watch shows with accents. So if they have an accent,
Ah, got it. Yeah.
it's immediately done. Can't watch it.
Yeah, that's out. Can't
Yep.
understand them.
Nope.
Yeah, that's out. Yeah, for me, number two, I'm wondering if you guys will have this one. It's, I would say, probably near the top of everybody's list in terms of critics and reviews, but it's Breaking Bad. And just a phenomenal show. I was hooked right away by this one. And again, violent, drugs, crazy storyline, weaved into a second show called Better Call Saul, which was also really good on my honorables, with Bob Odenkirk leading it. But yeah, Breaking Bad, just phenomenal television from start to finish. Loved it.
Great
Kierman,
concept.
how about you?
Good show. I like that
All
one.
right, so
Yeah.
for my number three, I'm going to go with a show neither one of you have probably ever heard of, and most of our listeners probably haven't either. One of my favorite genres is anything around time travel. I'm obsessed with time travel movies, time travel shows. And there was a
Quantum
show that
Leap.
came out a few years ago. No, I do not like Quantum Leap. I've tried both. They had a reboot recently and the original. That one, for some reason, I didn't like. But a show called Timeless came out a few years ago that I just absolutely love. It was canceled after one season, but the outpouring of love from fans convinced NBC to renew it for a second season, and so it ran from 2016 to 2018. It's basically about three 30-somethings, two men and a woman, who are asked by the government to time travel to stop a threatening organization who's also time traveling and trying to change the course of history. It's definitely an out there premise, but it just hits my sweet spot, and it's a show I can just sit down and watch nonstop and enjoy it. So that's my number three. For number two, my last two are just all-time classics, I think. For number two, I'm going to go with Homeland. The show ran from 2011 to 2020, starring Claire Danes and Mandy Patinkin. Just so intense and twisty, government, conspiracy, espionage, thriller series, which to your point, Bill, I love those types of shows. This show is extremely intense, with just incredible acting by Danes and really the whole cast. Every season is a different storyline, but it kind of wraps them up with really no crazy cliffhangers, which I like, and all storylines are semi believable and keep your attention. And the thing I really love about the show is how they ended it. It's always tough to bring a classic to an end in a satisfying way, but I feel like this show did it well. And so for that is my number two.
Nice. Yeah, I've heard that's a good one.
All right, Pat, what do you got for number one?
Well, I'll just give you a couple of my honorable mentions that didn't make the list. Ted Lasso, Cheers,
Okay. Yeah.
Cheers. I love Cheers. Chappelle Show, Breaking Bad. I thought that was another one. Friday Night Lights, that series was good. House of Cards was a fun one. The Sopranos is on my honorable mention. Sports Center, does that one count? Planet Earth series with David Attenborough.
Yeah.
That's a fantastic one. So those were some of my honorable mentions. But number one is The Simpsons. And it was a show. I watched the first Simpsons when it was on the Tracy Ullman show. They had a little short bit at the end. And I remember that when that came out, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. And then when I was in high school, I watched it religiously and even had VHS tapes in case there was like a 10-year apocalypse and no one could leave the house. I had episodes on tape, but their first 8 years were fantastic. When I lived in Spain, it was on every weekday during our siesta. So I'd watch it in Spanish too, and it was great. But I haven't watched it much lately, but that's a show that opened up the door for South Park and Family Guy. And it's been eerily good at predicting future events. I don't really watch it much anymore, but I laughed at that show so much. And even I used to be able to do a lot of the voices for the show, and even encouraged me to take a voiceover class, which I took one class and stopped. So, but yeah, I was like, man, I can do these voices. This is easy. I should try to make a career out of it, and did not. But yeah, The Simpsons, number one.
My number one falls right into the same kind of path that I described earlier, and It's a show called The Wire, and it was on HBO. The Wire, if you guys have not watched it, is incredible television. I mean, just incredible television. So good. It's based in Baltimore. It's corruption. It's the drug trade. It's politics. It's families. It's just amazing writing and storytelling and acting. It similar to Game of Thrones. They're not afraid to kill off main characters throughout the show, which I always find to be really good in terms of series and television. Just true to life and real. So just an amazing television show. It took me a long time to actually get to watching it. I started a couple different times, never got into it, and then finally kind of broke that second show barrier and then just binged, I think, all 8 seasons in like, a matter of weeks. So The Wire is my number one. Just quickly, I'll just mention a couple of my honorables, just because I think I showed you guys this earlier, but there's my list if you're watching on YouTube, and it's about 37 I think I have written down here, but just so many good shows. I had Mad Men on there that Pat mentioned. I love Succession, if you guys have watched that. Wonder Years is one from like our youth that I really enjoyed. Boardwalk Empire, Billions, Entourage, Silicon Valley, True Detective, The Leftovers, Eastbound and Down.
Eastbound
just so
and
many
Down.
good shows.
Yeah, Kenny Powers.
Yeah.
Nice.
Kenny Powers.
Yes.
And Will Ferrell's stuff in there was just
so
classic.
good.
So, yeah. Bierman, how about you, buddy?
Yeah, I had a couple honorable mentions similar to what you guys had, although I will say it counts as a show. Monday Night Football. That's show, and that's got to be up there for me. But Cheers, Cincinnati. I got to go with WKRP in Cincinnati, one of the all-time classic sitcoms. Show came out about 10, 15 years ago. Very violent, very sexual. Pat would probably love it. Called Spartacus, about a gladiator that I absolutely love that series. And you mentioned Sports Center, but there was a show back in like the 90s called Sports Night, which was like kind of about Sports Center, that was by Aaron Sorkin, actually directed it. That was only lasted a couple seasons, but that was kind of cool. I always liked that one. So, but my number one, Pat, when you shared this topic, I immediately knew this one was going to be my number one. It's a no-brainer for me, and I don't think another show will ever replace this. My number one is 24. In my opinion, It's the most creative, most intense, compelling
it's my wife's
show
favorite.
ever made. Kiefer Sutherland. Yeah, I just love it. It's Kiefer Sutherland just crushes the character of Jack Bauer. Character Chloe is iconic, even if she can be annoying at times. And they just keep you off balance, similar to what you just said, Bill, at all times, because the show kills off main likable characters on a regular basis. So you just never know what's going to happen, which I think is kind of cool. It's very unpredictable, very enjoyable. And in fact, making this list inspired me to start rewatching it. So I think I might have to pop in season 1 tonight. So long live Jack Bauer. Pat, another great selection for a top 5, buddy.
My wife had a ringtone once as beep, beep, beep. You know how they do that countdown? We loved that show. That was a fun one. Yeah.
Yeah. It's good.
I never watched it.
Yeah.
That's what's amazing to me. We had 15 different shows.
Yeah, we had 15 different shows.
15 different shows, and we didn't coordinate this.
No.
We didn't talk about it beforehand.
24. Once you get into it, it's such an easy show to binge watch because every show ends on a like every episode ends on a cliffhanger.
Yeah.
So you just want to watch the next one, but it is 24 hours each season. I mean, it's a long compared to how they make shows now. It's a long season to get through. So, and I think it's like 9 or 10 seasons. Well, let's move into Nailed It. Last week we shared exciting news around our Nailed It segment. We had a decent turnout of listeners who participated, and I am honored to say that last week's winner was the one and only Matt Aston. Congratulations, Matt. He got bullseyes on the last 2 questions in events on Sunday to take the lead and to notch the win, which means Matt makes it onto the leaderboard and is eligible for our end of season Super Bowl Nailed It edition. All other weekly winners will also compete in that. And then the winner in the Super Bowl edition will win an all expenses paid trip to either Cincinnati, Seattle, or Minneapolis for a weekend with the three of us, a delicious dinner, probably some sort of sporting event, and you will be a guest on one of our podcast episodes.
Hey,
Just a quick reminder that each...
Let's just hope Jennifer Aniston is this week's winner. And perhaps the yearly winner.
Well, hey, I did hand out our cards. I did hand out our cards to a lot of people at the Indiana tailgate, so
Nice.
we might get some of those people joining.
There you go.
Nice,
nice,
good work.
Yeah,
See,
there you go.
boots on the ground, man.
Boots
of the
on the ground, baby.
It works.
Just a quick reminder that each week opens up a new opportunity for everyone to make the leaderboard. So it doesn't matter if you missed last week, join this week. Also, we said last week that you need to email your answers in, but we actually changed it and made it much easier. So now all you have to do is click a link, and that will take you to the 5 questions where you simply type in your answers, you click submit, and you're all good. It takes less than 2 minutes to do it. The easiest way to find that link is to go to our website at nrcmansports.com, click on the Nailed It tab, and then you'll see the link there. You can click it for this week's questions, which we will have loaded as shortly after this episode is published. You can also find the answers to last week's questions on our site too. Just don't forget, you need to submit your picks each week by noon Eastern on Saturday. All right, Bill, take it away for this week's questions.
Nice. Let's just skip over the leaderboard. We don't really need to talk about that. That's not important.
Oh, we need to spend a lot of time on that.
Boy, Eric has got Cincinnati looking real good at this point. So Eric's at 26 points. Pat, 20, moves into second place, Minneapolis. And Bill in Seattle bringing up the rear with 19. Episode 12 standings, Eric nailed 4 points last week. Pat had 3 points, and I had 1 point. So really good week by both of you guys. All right, you guys got your phones ready?
Let's do it.
Episode 13 questions. All right. So I think the best football game on the college slate this week is number 7 Tennessee at number 3 Georgia. Those rankings will probably have been updated by the time people are listening to this. So that was just when I was doing this last night. The total over under is 48.5. The question is, how many points will be scored in the second half? Second half, Tennessee at Georgia. And the over-under is 48.5.
I'm ready.
3, 2, 1, send. All right, I'm at 20. Pat, 21. And Bierman, 30. Okay, that's a good spread. Okay, as those that have been listening to the podcast for a while have heard me do before, I try to do a little mix of sports and non-sports. But now that we have our listeners participating in the contest, it's a little bit harder just because we have to make sure that the questions are based after noon Eastern on Saturday. But I think this will work fine, and we're just going to try it this week and see how it goes. What will the warmest temperature recorded in the 50 United States of America on Sunday, 11/17 be? And this is guesses need to be in tenths. Okay. So as we record, Corpus Christi, Texas was 88.0 degrees Fahrenheit yesterday. Okay. So that's the highest one yesterday. But the question is, the warmest in just the 50 United States be on Sunday. All right. You guys ready? 3, 2, 1, send. Oh, okay. We got a good range again. Pat, 103.4. Bill, 94.0. Eric, 86.2.
That sounds like an FM station from the 80s.
103.4
103.4.
Hey, thanks for tuning in, everybody. We got a great show tonight. As with me, as always, the Beerman, Eric Beerman, and my cohort, Bill Sanders. Folks, topic number 1.
What was the... Bierman, you mentioned WKRP. What was Venus Flytrap? What was the nerdy guy's name?
Les Nessman. Les Nessman was the nerdy guy. Herb Tarlek was the salesman, the sleazy salesman. Nice. Johnny Fever was the...
Johnny Fever.
Nice. Andy Travis was kind of the main normal guy.
Yeah.
The big
Les
guy,
was the guy I was
Mr.
trying to think of.
Carlson, was the kind of the owner, or the owner's son technically. But yeah, great show.
That's
And then
awesome. They
Lonnie
got a great
Anderson
show.
was
Oh
the,
yeah, Lonnie.
similar to Gilligan's Island with Ginger and Marianne. There was always the
the eye candy for the
token
it
kids.
was
eye candy.
Jennifer and it was Jennifer, and then who was Bailey was the other one, and she was cute, but I don't think she was quite as attractive as.
All right, back to Nailed It. Question 3. We mentioned movies and how bad they suck these days. So it had got me thinking this week. What will the total domestic box office movie gross be this weekend, 11/15 through 11/17? Okay, so the 15th movies will come out. People will know that if they want to go research. That's fine. Everybody's on the same page. The last 4 weekends, 68.9 million, 71.5 million, 93.8 million, and 68.7 million. Okay, and a couple tidbits for people to remember. That 93.8 number, which is the highest in the last bunch of months, was Venom: The Last Dance came out. Okay, some Marvel movie, I believe. And then this weekend, there's a movie called Red One that's coming out. It has Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, Chris Evans.
Oh yeah,
it's another one I think in that Marvel world or universe. Movies that I never go see, but just keep that in mind. There is I think a movie that people are anticipating coming out this weekend. Okay, so total domestic box office in the United States, being domestic, this weekend.
Yep.
3, 2, 1, send. Oh, Pat, you dick!
Oh my god!
Unbelievable!
Oh my god!
Unbelievable!
Your last.
Oh,
the only reason I did 101.3 is you said my last one sounded like a radio station, and I was like, oh,
like
101.3 KDWB.
All right. Pat guessed 101.3 million, and I guessed 101 million. Oh my gosh, that hurts. Bierman's 78.7 million. All right, man, that stung, Pat.
Mhm.
That stung. All right, question number 4. The Seattle Seahawks, coming off their bye, travel to San Francisco and face the San Francisco 49ers. Christian McCaffrey's back. He played last week and had a decent showing. He rushed for 39 yards on 13 carries, and he added 6 catches for 68 yards, total of 107 yards. The question is, how many combined rushing and receiving yards will CMC go for this week against the Seahawks? 3, 2, 1, send. Pat's playing he might get injured.
This is like The Price is Right. I feel like you guys are gonna go over, so I'll bet bet $1.
And you played it pretty well. So I have 128, Bierman 123, Pat 10 yards. All right, nice. Question number 5, the final question for Nailed It episode 13. This one's going to be a little crazy, but I wanted there to be a big range of guesses that might come into play. Okay, so how many combined personal fouls will there be in the 10 NBA games on Sunday, 11/17?
Oh my gosh.
And the tidbit that I'll give you is NBA teams are averaging 20.2 fouls per game so far in 2024. That's per team. Okay. Are you guys ready? 3, 2, 1, send. Okay. Oh. Bierman 393, Pat 398, Sanders 408. Okay. We'll see.
I don't like that. I'm squeezed in there.
We'll see. Seattle needs a comeback, man. Seattle needs a comeback. These are going to be hard to get bullseyes as well. These aren't bullseye questions.
Those were tough ones, dude. You took it. You were a little salty today. You took it to another level here, man.
Yeah, if we don't end up having to go to Seattle, we can just make Seattle our end of the year conference site.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, it'll be the plan B.
I thought we were making Bloomington, Pat.
No, that's my research. I'm going to be going to all the campuses. A lot of research.
Well, good luck, everybody. Thanks to everybody that played last week, and we look forward to this contest being a lot of fun for all you guys. So it's going to get harder as more people learn about it.
Yeah,
but keep playing.
Another great job, Bill. Great slate of questions this weekend. So yeah, go out there and make sure you join and join the fun. All right. Well, gentlemen, it was another great show, but it is sadly time to exit Sandman Sports. Hope you two and our listeners enjoyed it as much as I did. Before we go, a final plea to check us out on social media, like us, subscribe to us, and tell others about us. Check us out on Instagram at Enter Sandman Sports. Check out our website at entersandmansports.com, where we have lots of articles, advice, videos, the St. Louis Syndicate, and all of our podcasts can be found there, including this one. And as mentioned earlier, you can find our Nailed It questions and the link to submit your guesses this week. Subscribe to our YouTube channel at Enter Sandman Sports. Follow us on Facebook at Enter Sandman Sports. Thank you, everyone. Have a great weekend. Take care.
Bye.
Good luck.